unsettled and blustery weather that I mentioned last week has continued, making it pretty difficult to get any jobs done outside the boat. Last night was really brutal. It's still pretty brutal now. Last night it's calmed down. It's kind of 30 knots, it's 22 to 25 knots consistent and gusting 30. Last night it was 40, I'll put it up on the screen, but it was, according to the predictions, it was like gusting 50, but I went outside in the middle of the night and I saw 60 knots on our anemometer, on our wind speed indicator at one point, because it was like, holy cow, this is pretty dramatic. So I actually put the instruments on and went in the cockpit and had a look at what it was actually blowing, and I did see 60 knots. But of course, I was in my pyjamas and it was the middle of the night, so I didn't film it for you guys. So I had all these plans of stuff that I was going to be doing this week, and a lot of them I've just not been able to do. We've also had some family commitments, so I'm not exactly sure. At this point in the episode, the thumbnail and the title will possibly give you an idea of what's going on in this episode, but at this point in the filming, I don't actually know what's in this episode. Oh, look at this. This is horrible. In a kind of rugged, British, dramatic, beautiful kind of way.
So it's that time of the year where kids are going back to school, a new term, a new year has started. So we've been getting lots of comments asking what kind of things Jack's working on, which I will cover very soon. But one of the most important things is obviously making sure that Jack gets to socialise. I think lots of people think that we just keep him locked in his aft cabin and he can't see anyone else, and it's definitely not true. So this weekend we're actually going on a home ed camping trip. Andy's staying here doing boat work, so that means that I'm taking a 5-month-old baby and an 11-year-old camping, which means I've got to put up a tent and the weather's looking a bit sketchy. Our tent was kept in the back of the garage and I got it out and something had moved into it, so I've borrowed a tent. So it's a tent that I've never put up before, and we've sort of got rid of all our camping stuff when we got rid of the camper van. So we've kind of like, I'm going to take just bits from the boat basically and just take Jack off camping. Now I'm going to film subtly to make sure that there's no other children in it, because obviously it's a home ed group, but you will see some bits of Jack and I and Ollie having some fun camping.
Winter is clearly approaching here, not that we actually had any summer here in Wales. So let's talk about heating. We've actually been looking into the solutions for heating on Ocean Melody ever since we got her. For decades there have been two big names really in diesel heaters for boats, and they've always been really, really good, really, really well respected, but really, really expensive. And then a few years ago along came the Chinese diesel heaters. I hope I don't get any stick for calling them that. They're just known as that everywhere. You can get them on Amazon, you can get them on eBay, you can get them all over the place. So we were torn whether to go for one of the proper expensive ones and just bite the bullet and say, you know, buy once, buy it right, or to go for one of the cheaper Chinese versions as they're known and to save a little bit of money there. And then Gemma and Simon from Ship Happens, hi guys, told us about AUTOTERM Planar heaters. They're a UK-based company. They actually manufacture them in Latvia, but their main distribution hub is in the UK. All of their tech support is in the UK. Their workshops are in the UK. Their engineers and technicians are in the UK, and they're literally an hour and a half's drive from here. We actually took a drive over there several months ago, met one of their technicians, picked up all of this stuff, and it's been sitting in a box waiting for us to install it while we've been doing other things, moving out of the house, getting settled on the boat and all of that kind of good stuff. Now, I'm not saying anything bad against the expensive diesel heaters, the really expensive ones, or the cheapy ones. What I'm saying is this is what we've gone for, and they're kind of in the middle ground. Really high quality manufacture, UK-based company, much less money than the super expensive ones, a bit more money than the Chinese ones, but seems to me to be the best of both worlds. Now, there are a few critical differences between the systems that you can install on a boat and the system that you can install on an RV, camper van, caravan, and that kind of stuff. And the main difference is the exhaust system. On a van or a caravan or a camper van or what, an RV or whatever you want to call it, the diesel heater system exhaust goes straight out the bottom of the vehicle. Right, so it's outside in the elements and you attach it to the underneath of the vehicle. And that means that it can be supplied in sections like this. And it doesn't matter if there's a tiny little leak of exhaust gases from around this muffler. This is obviously the muffler that keeps the exhaust a bit quiet. Because the whole system's outside, you ideally don't want a leak on it, but it doesn't matter if it leaks slightly. But on a boat, the whole system is inside the boat except for where the exhaust actually exits the boat itself. And if you've got joins in this pipe, you've cut this and you've got a join there and a join there that could potentially leak, and you're installing this in your cockpit locker or your lazarette or your engine room, the very last thing you want in a boat is exhaust fumes. There are a few things you don't want in a boat, and exhaust fumes is definitely high on that list. So the system from AUTOTERM, you can either get the RV campervan version with this exhaust, which is completely fine for campervans, but they've supplied us with this bad boy, which is a completely integrated marine grade stainless steel, fully welded exhaust system with no gaps and no leaks in it at all anywhere. And that's what you have to have if you're installing it on a boat. This is the diesel heater itself, but we've been supplied with, from AUTOTERM, the entire kit that we needed to do the whole boat, which is going to be great. I'm going to try and get this installed and up and running, and you can take bets now as to whether I get that completed or not within this episode, or whether it runs into next episode.
Trouble in sight, beating hearts don't lie, an empty page, a story to write. I'm in love, you're divine, and it's all in our signs. We're going away, get your bag, check the tag, decision is made, lock your door, need no more, it's already paid. Cancel your mail for a while. It's a journey for life, and I'm your ride. Hang on, we'll be long gone. Hang on, I cannot go wrong. God, I'm praying I'm not alone in this air of hope. 'Cause I'm in love, you're a star, burning bright in my heart. We're going away, get your bag, check the tag, decision is made, lock your door, need no more, it's already paid, cancel your mail for a while. It's a journey for life, and I'm your ride. Hang on, we'll be long gone. Hang on, I cannot go wrong.
So, if you're wondering what this thing is here, this is the little miniature tank that comes with it. I've put it here for now. Don't panic, it's not staying there. I'm going to make a proper mount for it. I've put a little bit of diesel in it just to test the system, and I'm hoping that this now starts to kick in. I haven't got the vents on, I haven't got the ducting on, I haven't got any of that. I've just mounted the unit. I haven't even done the exhaust. I've got the exhaust on, but it's just up here at the minute. So I'm not going to be running this for any length of time. I just want to fire it up and see if it all works. So this is the fuel pump, and again, all of this wiring, I'm going to run all of this and make it look all pretty and nice. Please don't panic about these cables and tubing. It's not staying like this. It's going to get, and this is just the test run to make sure it's all working. I think I've got the angle of the pump wrong. because I've just watched the fuel go up this line. It's like any diesel engine, you've got to prime them, you've got to get they can't run with no fuel, you've got to get the fuel into the engine, haven't you? Hey, that's an exhaust pipe. Hey, I'm going to stick that outside. I'm not going to breathe that in. The important thing about these installations is they've got to be done safely. So this shambolic thing at the minute that you're seeing, I know I keep excusing myself, but it's not going to stay like this. It's going to be routed and all of the exhaust is going to be properly routed, the fuel lines are going to be properly routed, and the electricity is going to be properly routed. So please don't worry, because these systems are really, really very, very good, but they're extremely dangerous if they're not routed correctly. Not inherently to the system, but if you pump exhaust fumes into your boat, it's really bad. I've just turned it up to hotter. Lovely. That's now hot. That's hot air. I'm happy. I'm going to come back to this tomorrow. Let me go menu. Off. Switching off. And now it will run a shutdown sequence. And the important thing is not to just turn it off, because that's how you melt bits. Because of course, now that it's turning off, it's got to stop heating, but it needs to keep the fans running to cool everything in there down before it stops the fans. Oh, that's nice. Oh, that's lovely. I'm half tempted to keep pressing on with the installation and finish it tonight so I can be all toasty while I watch the Avengers. But no, I shan't do that. I shall finish it tomorrow. That's nice. I'll see you back in here tomorrow. It's doing this again. It's chucking it down with rain. And because we haven't got the full cockpit enclosure, I don't know how I'm supposed to work in the cockpit locker. I guess I can lift the lid up and prop it open with something and work in there with the lid half shut. It's kind of sketchy because if it shuts on me I can't get out and there's nobody else here. I'm going to have some breakfast and then I'm going to do that though. Oh, I really don't want to do this today. I'll just try and get, I think I'll just try and get the control panel on, the wiring run, and perhaps the exhaust pipe and one of the ducting pipes done, so that at least we can get some heating into some of the boat and then finish the job another day. Winter is definitely upon us. That's the vent pipe done. I'm really happy with that. It runs behind the exhaust. Oh, there's a little pinhole there. That's water coming in there. It runs behind the engine exhaust. So, you know, it's well restrained actually. I'm going to put some actual clips on to hold it steady, of course, and secure this. But there's no way that's moving, and it just runs down next to the exhaust of the engine, along the side of the engine, and straight through the bulkhead into the galley area, which I think is a really good solution. The next thing, I guess, is put the skin fitting in for the exhaust. There are 3 wiring looms that are necessary to operate this thing. One is the one on the fuel pump, which is already on it. This one is the power one, which comes already made up. You just, it's got this end which goes onto your battery or your bus bar or whatever you're wiring it to, power basically, and it's already got the fuses in, and that end just plugs in to the unit, and you can't get it wrong because no 2 plugs on it are the same, which is perfect. And then you get the control panel which controls it, and a short cable. They say short, I think it's a meter. Yeah, it's 3 feet. Now, I've already run a power cable from our fuse board. I've got it here. I don't like this, especially just in the cockpit locker there. I think I want to tuck it up under there or mount it on here. So I'm going to finish the installation of this and get it running. But one thing I'm going to add to this is I'm going to buy a little waterproof enclosure so to hold where the wiring loom for the power will be waterproof, you know, enclosed in there, and the wiring loom for the switch harness for the main control unit will be in there as well, just to kind of give it a little bit of extra protection, I think. Okay, so we've got power, heating, temperature mode. Let's turn it up to 25 degrees. And see what happens. Oh! And we've got, yeah, it looks like it's all starting up okay, which we'll report back in a moment when we've got some power and some heat. Well, we've got power and we've got some heat coming out. This is all looking very positive, guys. Okay, so that is now blowing hot air into the boat. Beautiful. That's running nicely. And our exhaust, I didn't show you the exhaust being fitted yesterday because it was just, there it is. There's the exhaust. So I didn't show you me fitting the exhaust yesterday because it was horrible rain and wind. But basically the system is now working. I'm just going to run it for an hour or 2 with all the hatches open to make sure that any sort of dust or anything that's in the pipes or anything like that is just all nicely cleared out, and the boat doesn't smell of anything when Melissa and Ollie and Jack come back. I miss them very much. It's been a nice time kind of getting on with the work, but I do miss them when they're away, you know. Anyway, the boat's warming up nicely. I'm gonna have a cup of tea and I'm gonna call that job for now done. I need to tidy up the cabling. I need to get a little box to protect those plugs, and I need to just screw some P-clips up and that kind of thing, and just make sure everything's tight and good. But in terms of the installation, sweet, it's done.
Time to try and set up a tent.
No, I think you're right now that I'm looking at it from a different angle.
Well, it's starting to resemble a tent. What do you think, Ollie? So we've got the tent up. I need to set all the bedrooms up and stuff like that. Jack's off playing with some other kids. I think he's playing badminton at the moment. It's quite a cool setup. They've got a communal games tent and then a play tent, and some of the mums are setting up a big fire pit for baked potatoes later around the fire. And Ollie's quite happy. Aren't you, Ollie? You're quite happy. Are you happy? Yeah? Managed to get the tent up before it started raining. It is due to pour down at some point over the weekend. The ground is really wet, but as long as we can keep everything dry inside the tent, that's the main thing. So we had our first night camping with Oliver. It rained a lot. Jack was oblivious to it, obviously, because he didn't have his ears on, but it did rain pretty much all night.
Oh, your hands are nice.
But it was nice. Just boiling the kettle now for a cup of tea.
Crying. You like that part?
Want some porridge? Jack?
Yeah?
Do you want your porridge? Would you like your porridge?
Harry?
Porridge.
Oh, yes, please. Why do you keep kicking my hand?
We're just having a bit of downtime, having some lunch in the tent. Jack's going to tell you what he's been up to. Oliver's just having fun.
My first game of Dungeons and Dragons last night. I whittled a sword.
He's in the process of whistling a sword in forest school today. And you played Dungeons and Dragons last night.
Yeah, my first ever game.
We went down the beach.
Went down the beach. Oh yeah, that was nice. It's really cool here because it's not just one really long, boring, sandy beach. Like it's nice, sandy beach, but like these big cliffs where there's been a landslide and there's
Lots of coves, isn't there?
Yeah, it's really cool.
This afternoon we're going to do some natural dyeing.
Burials.
Not burials, with berries. And it's been great, apart from the rain. The ground is very squelchy.
Yeah, we don't have ground feet.
So as I said last week, I think it was last week, Danny the welder is coming back to help me get some more work done on Steel Melody. Now if you'll think back, you may not have seen these episodes, and if you haven't, please go and watch them. But if you'll think back, we were originally planning to sail Steel Melody from Holyhead to Bangor, and that didn't happen for several reasons. Basically, stuff didn't get done in time for it to facilitate that, to make that happen. And the yard was closing the end of the yard that we were in, so we just had to go, and that meant that we paid for a low loader, which was fine because we got it at a good price. But in preparation for that, what we were originally planning to do, which was sail from Holyhead to Bangor, we took everything off Steel Melody, all of the spare parts, all of the tools, everything. We basically just emptied the boat to make her as light as possible and as clutter-free as possible. Now, all of that stuff has been in our garage back at home, at the house, for ever since then, really, for a year, almost exactly a year. And when we were moving out of the house 6 weeks ago, 4 to 6 weeks ago, we had to bring all of that stuff back and put it back on Steel Melody, and we were in a bit of a rush. Obviously I'm doing a lot of these trips myself because Melissa's got the baby, which is totally cool, but it meant that I haven't sorted the boat. Now when Danny comes to do the welding in a couple of weeks, next week I'm hoping, it all depends on the weather, I want his time to be as efficient as possible, so I want to make sure that the boat is completely clear and stowed as far as I can to make sure that there's no clutter in the way of what he needs to do. And this is the state that Steel Melody is in at the moment. Yeah, It's not as bad as it looks. It's just stuff piled up on top of benches that should be inside the benches and in the aft end. So we've got here all the sail bags for this boat and for Ocean Melody, because we're gradually replacing the sails in Ocean Melody and we haven't yet decided which ones we're going to chuck away. We've got a load of tools that were in my workshop, so things like the band saw. But that basically is just a pile of sails, so that's not too difficult. Down here we've got a pile of wood on this seat, so there's a sheet there that I can't stow, more timber, and again boxes of stuff which really can all go under the seats. And then in the forepeak again it's loads and loads and loads of timber, and all of this timber really is going to end up on the walls. We did experiment with this painted plywood, and we might do a bit of a combination kind of thing, but we've got loads and loads of tongue and groove, we've got loads and loads of teak, we've got loads and loads of mahogany, and a lot of that stuff needs to come off the benches onto the walls, so it's not actually as bad as it looks. My job today though, and there's going to be a couple of patches that need welding under here. We got 99.9% of the welding done, but we then noticed a couple of other patches which we needed to get finished. They didn't get done in time for us to sail down here, sadly. Danny's coming back to do that, so I've got to basically try and clear the decks so that he has an unimpeded workspace. So my first job is not to actually do any work here per se, but it's to start clearing and tidying and making the place look presentable. And I'm going to start, I think, by taking everything off this bench and putting stuff underneath inside the bench rather than on top of it. That will be a good starting point, like this. Okay, so the saloon is, although it doesn't look like it, it's pretty much back to how it needs to be. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to start bringing stuff down from the pilot house. Okay, so the situation is this. The forepeak is rammed with all of the timber, as I say, that needs to go back on the walls. There's a couple of pieces here that I can't move because I need to cut them up because they're too big. All of the standing rigging is here. A lot of it's, you know, fine. We've had it inspected by a rigger and we think it was new when it was put up, so we can't verify the age. Probably should replace that standing rigging at some point, but it's fine for now. Pilot house wise, all those sails are gone. I've got my tools there, I've got some bits and pieces on the seats, but all the sails are in the heads. Right, now this is the area that I need to show you. Down here I had got a lot of the sails, a lot of them were up there in the pilot house. There was piles of them on here on the aft bunk, because remember we've got sails for this boat, sails for Ocean Melody, and I've got several lots of sails, bits and pieces of sails that people have given us over the years, which may be good and may not. So I've been hoarding sails. We're not going to be any longer, but we need to sort them out. So they were all piled up in here, along with all the rigging for this boat and various other things. And the piece of welding that needs to happen is here, look. It is there. Now you can't see it from the inside and you can't see it from the outside. It's just pitting in the metal. And we had the whole boat shot blasted from the waterline down last year, and huge areas of the aft end you can see the weld lines. We had the whole back end redone, and then this one area that we noticed, so we couldn't get it done at the time, but we're now thinking, right, let's get that done, because it's not terrible, but it's not brilliant. So we're going to get this area done here, and I wanted to get the aft end cleared so that when Danny the welder turns out, I don't spend the entire time wasting his time getting this back end cleared out for him to sit and work.
We have made it back from camping. Slight carnage in the last couple of days. The weather was wild, wet and windy. Filming with a baby in tow was hard enough, but also and putting up a tent, and but when the weather hit, I just had to get the tent down and bundle everything in the car. So now time to deal with the carnage. So we're quite fortunate that the old house currently is still in the family. It means that I've driven back to the old house so I can lay the tents out, to dry, and then pull it back up, pack it up and give it back to my friend.